We're going to be looking at a few different coaching questions around women's coaching. So I wanted to start with, why does purposeful coaching matter for women? And I am going to hand over to see what Ashley's thoughts are in a moment. But just to share from my experience, I do a lot of women in leadership coaching, and I do one-on-one coaching and group coaching as well. And I get asked the question, well, how does the women's coaching differ from men's coaching? And I think for me, some of it is around the fact that we've still got a lot of work to do, haven't we? There is still the inequity that happens. We still don't have enough women in those senior leadership positions. There is still lots of adversity that women have faced that shows up for us. We've still got those glass ceilings to break. And I also found that when I'm working with women, of course, they have a unique set of challenges that's specific for them. You know, as women, we probably go through lots of different transitions, not that men don't, but I have women who, you know, are mothers, for example, and have had transitions and changes in their career, or for cultural reasons, perhaps haven't been able to get as far up the ladder as they have wanted to. And I have seen specific themes and topics come up again and again for women that perhaps don't come up in the same way for men, even though they are similar. What about you, Ashley? Why do you think it's important for us to be purposeful in supporting women?
Yeah, I love what you just shared, Raj, and absolutely agree with all of that, and just how important that purposeful coaching with women is. And you know, when I look at women, and I take into consideration just all of these incredible women that I've known, maybe from afar that I don't know personally, to the personal ones, and I'm just inspired by women. We're beautiful, and we have so much to offer. The world, our communities, our workspaces, our families. And so, you know, purposeful coaching with women is really looking at a woman and what does she have to offer that is going to bring that beauty or creativity or strength or whatever it might be into a situation. And it might look a little bit different for a woman. And I think even in leadership, being able to address how are you designed, and who are you to bring this to this leadership position? Because there is something special and powerful about a woman in leadership. And so I think there's purpose in it, because we're just butterflies. Just thinking of like how we're just so, you know, women are just really remarkable and magical. Women really are. And so having purpose and coaching specifically for us, I think, is important to empower and uplift women and to help them see just how much they do have to offer. Because I think as women, especially, we tend to have a much more, well, I shouldn't say that. I know men also work through this as well, but a negative self-talk. And we can be just so hard on ourselves. And there was a lot of competition in community of women. I think growing up for me and being able to see men, if we rally each other, you know, there's a quote of like, empowered women empower women. And so there's something to women being able to recognize our own strengths and the beauty that we hold, and then celebrate somebody else's and what we can do together. And I think women have a remarkable gift of nurturing that and supporting others when they feel that for themselves. So that also feels really important with purposeful coaching with women too.
I think you said something really important there. When we feel it for ourselves, we are able to empower others. And I didn't have great women role models kind of growing up, and also in leadership positions. Actually, it was men who were great mentors to me or helped me to get to the next level. And unfortunately, some of the women that I was surrounded by are leaders, and maybe they felt that there was not enough space at the table for everyone. And I think learning from that experience, it made it even more important for me to be that conduit for other women and to do the work on myself, because I think we know that when we ourselves are in pain, or we are feeling insecure, or we're not fulfilled, it's not so easy to have empathy for others when we don't have it for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that, Ashley?
Oh yeah, I'm a game changer when we start to recognize and know the inner dialogue that is happening within us, and when we start to show ourselves compassion and that empathy and grace, it extends out. And I even think about, one of the most powerful things in communities with women is not only showing up in strength and in confidence and in security, but also in our areas of growth and our insecurities. And but until we know who we really are, until we know our value and know that none of those things define that we still have so much value in the strengths and in the areas of growth, are we able to meet other women and say, all of you is welcome here as well. So let's lay this out on the table together. Let's champion each other in all the areas so that we move forward arms linked in strength to be able to say we are worthy and valuable in all of this. But until we're able to accept that for ourselves, that it can be hard. I know if I'm operating out of a place of lack of compassion for myself, trying to think of maybe this was my 22-year-old self. I can remember looking back and walking into a room and feeling insecure. And if I'm in that space, I can look at all the women in the room and find all the things that are make me feel inferior or that I'm insecure about. If I'm walking in empowered, I'm looking at all the other women. I'm like, oh, yes, okay. I love her fire. I love how courageous that woman is over there. I love how funny that woman is. And none of those things take away from anything that I am when I know it fully for myself. And I think that's such a gift, and it's so freeing. And it's when, I don't know if you're one of those women, when you're with a woman who has this peace, she's just at peace with herself. And that doesn't mean she's perfect or has everything together, but there's a peacefulness in her, and you're just yes, this woman inspires me. And yeah, so I could go on so many tangents with that. That's kind of what it brought up for me. I'm yes, I definitely have had to work through that. And some days are really easy in that. And then there's other days where I have to really practice and work through the inner dialogue and bring it to truth.
What's the most important work that you've done on yourself that's helped you get there?
I think for me personally, my identity and value is really rooted in my relationship with God. So I think that's been a huge work through for me, is understanding my value and a bigger purpose outside of myself, and being able to look within to look without, I guess, has been really powerful for me. What about for you?
I think it's daily progress, daily work on self.
That's good.
And I think coaching was life-changing for me. And I've shared that with John before, discovering coaching. When I discovered my coach and I started to do that work on myself and really hold the mirror up to both the light and the shadow side, because I think we have both, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I think initially I felt that everything was happening to me and not for me. So I think when I was able to do that work on self, started to see that I had agency. It sounds so obvious now, but I think I was in a place where I didn't realize that I get to choose. I get to manage and control, in a sense of it's my world, right? It's I have complete autonomy over how I choose to respond to something, which now makes complete sense to me. Yet at the time, it all felt that it was out of my control, and that things would happen on a day-to-day basis, and how I would choose to respond to them, even choosing to find happiness. Now I know that, but if I think back, and it's so obvious to me, but back then I didn't realize, because I wasn't able to give myself permission. And I love what you're sharing about God. And I think for me, having faith, and I was brought up in Sikh religion, and for a while I kind of went away from some aspects of it because the story was painful, and because I didn't completely connect with it myself. And when I have been able to, and make it my own, and make my story my own, and give myself permission to choose, that's when things started to change. And I think simple steps, like reflecting on things, asking myself the very simple question every day of, what did I learn about myself? Becoming an expert in myself. Like, I am my biggest student and my biggest teacher all at the same time.
Yeah.
I think the final thing I would add to that was life-changing and has been life-changing for me is gratitude.
Yeah, I love that so much. What I was curious about, what question do you ask yourself to be able to give yourself permission, like in those moments where you're recognizing, I need to allow myself permission here? What is the question that you ask yourself?
Well, it's more of an affirmation, a reminder. It's a great question. Thanks, Ashley. I have an affirmation, a reminder to myself. I deserve to be loved for who I am, not just for what I do.
Yeah. Wow.
How does that resonate with you, Ashley?
Oh yeah, man, that's been a learning for me. That was one of the most, I think, valuable lessons I actually learned in the last year, enduring some really difficult things, and in being in the presence of others, and them saying, I want to be here with you even when you feel like you have nothing to give. And it was just a shock to me of like, people want to know me fully and love me, and they want to be with me even when I don't have anything to offer. And also encouraging me that I did have things to offer when I felt like I even didn't. But oh yes, like that's to be known at that level and to be valued for just being is a really remarkable gift. And we're all deserving of that. We all are lovable and deserving of being loved in that way.
Because so much of our worth gets tied up, doesn't it, in the doing. I work with a lot of women who, if we're looking at kind of common themes, are perfectionists, if we look at the core motivation or Enneagram, who are perfectionists, helpers, doers, peacemakers, because society has told them that that's what they need to be. You be a certain way to fit in, or be a certain way to attempt to climb that leadership ladder.
Exactly.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's so good, because when I think about that, it's that dialogue relates to so many different areas of our life, like you're mentioning. So that could be not expressing any vulnerability as a leader, because women, we shouldn't do that. And it's like, ooh, actually that could be a really powerful thing. Or we need to sacrifice everything that we are, as a mother. And a mother, I mean, oh man, I'm not a mom. I don't even know what that's like, but I see the women in my life, it's so beautiful, and like the way that they sacrifice. So that's natural. But this feeling of, I have to totally lose myself, or not talk, or I should say, not talk about the struggles of motherhood. They're, the beauty of it. And also, man, sometimes it's just hard. And so I, get to hear my friends who are mothers talk about that. And it's just lovely to hear them talk about that and not feel this pressure to have everything all together all the time. They can learn and grow on the journey. So I love that, because it releases a very unrealistic pressure and expectation on us as women. And we can just be able to show up and say, this is where I am, and this is where I want to go and where I am going. And gives a lot of opportunity to actually, I think, show up in even like more powerful and incredible ways than we thought we could. It removes some limiting beliefs as well. I don't know if that made sense, but I do love what you're saying. What are your thoughts as I share that? What kind of brings up for you?
It's just reminding me, you talked about vulnerability and learning from each other. And I think it is really important that we surround ourselves with people, with women that we can share these things with. So I run a lot of group coaching programs. And, this is a tip that I might give, if you're looking at purposeful coaching for women, and we started to touch on themes. One of the things I like to share with coaches is to think about, don't make assumptions in terms of what you think a woman needs or what her challenges are. And you kind of you shared that. So asking the questions, because we're all different and we're all unique. Even though we celebrate International Women's Day. And then what I found has been fantastic in the group coaching that I'm doing, and purposefully, we use that word, set it up in that way, is for women to have a safe space to be vulnerable and to share and learn and grow from each other. And I hear again and again women sharing feedback of, I didn't realize anybody else felt like an imposter. I didn't realize anybody else had an inner critic. Or I certainly didn't think that woman at that level, or how could that woman who looks like she's got it all together possibly have an inner critic? And it brings peace. It brings the thought of, oh, maybe I can do it too. Or now we are more alike than we are different. And that brings about courage and strength.